Well, thank you very much, Your Grace, Lord Sachs, lots of other members of the House of Lords present today, and the rest of us. It's a great pleasure to be here. An unusual fate for me because, generally speaking, the people that have spoken before me generally say what a rotten job that the government is doing and how they are completely right and I'm completely wrong. Then it's my job to tell them what an excellent job the government is doing and that I am completely right and they're completely wrong. So this is uncharted territory now for me. But I do want to pick up on a couple of things that previous speakers said. And I do think it's our role, whether as faith leaders or as members of the government, to help, as the Archbishop said, one another to be human. We know to be human is capable of intense and almost unimaginable cruelty, but is also capable of redemption, of forgiveness, and of a way of moving forward that helps one another through the process of kindness. I thought from the Chief Rabbi that very moving story from Mr. Ostro, the survivor of Treblinka. Now I was reading Vasily Gozman's war diaries, and he talks about the liberation of Treblinka, that there was nothing there because the Nazis had just about destroyed everything. There was nothing there but death and graves. And the story about the necklace, I think, is wonderful. But what I take from it is that poignant moment of a father sharing a prayer with his sons before they parted in this life forever. And it did occur to me that when you were speaking, that prayer, that relationship, was something that the Nazis wanted to obliterate, literally, so like it had never happened, to atomize it. And that moment of tenderness lives today because of what you just said, and lives today because of that wonderful gift. But faith is part of the very fabric of this country. It makes our communities stronger. It inspires people to do great things, kind things. Never underestimate kindness. Generous things for people around them. You see, I've never in my life come across a single church, a mosque, a synagogue, gurdwara, or any other place of worship which looks holy within, which didn't care about the lives of all those neighbours and other faiths, or people of no faith at all, as the Archbishop referred to. There are so many cases of faith institution playing an intensive and practical role in local life. Whether its contribution is not just confined to kindness or warm words, but to hot meals, to gardens planted, to graffiti removed. Faith institutions are often the first to comfort the grieving and give direction to the lost. A dreadful experience we went through in August. It was very noticeable for me, from sort of Merseyside, Salford, and right down to the capital itself. It was faith institutions that got out there with the broom. It was faith institutions that opened up their church halls, their mosques, to provide subsistence and help and accommodation to those in need. And we will be far poorer without the contributions of faith organisations. Last week I was in Bethnal Green looking at the Near Neighbourhood programme, a £5 million fund supported by the government and administered by the Church Urban Fund. The fund is already helping people in Bradford, my old stomping ground, Oldham, Leicestershire, Birmingham, and in East London. And it's a place where significant different faith communities live side by side, where faith institutions are working together, churches with mosques, imams with priests. And they are a better place than anyone to break ice between the different communities, to get to know one another. An opportunity of a meeting with a number of the groups, and I came very close to being signed up for a female Zumba dance group. I managed to escape very, very quickly with a promise that I might return. I'm not. But there was something wonderful there in terms of the involvement of different communities. For the first time, the neighbours of different ethnic backgrounds were meeting to be engaged in a common activity. They're an excellent Eid party, which people from Christians and people from different faiths attended. I'm going to follow that with a wonderful party for young mothers to celebrate Christmas together. And I think wonderful thing about churches and religious organisations is the ability to break down barriers. We perhaps do with this thing straight on. I think there is. We of course want, the state's role is there, absolutely right, to bring out the best, to ensure that we don't get in the way of good relationship between communities. But I think there is a faith role in political debates, whether about the banks or whether about the housing cap. I don't think we should be frightened about that. I don't think we should be terribly upset that we have disagreements. I mean, people's minds are changed. That wonderful great Liberal, because we are, of course, a coalition, Gladstone's very first speech in the House of Commons was in support of slave owners in plantations. And yet this great social reformer was to change his mind. I've listened to Wilberforce, that great Conservative, for we are indeed a coalition, and to move against slavery. So we want to hear, I think, the voice of faith groups in the various debates that we have. But of course, in terms of the state's involvement, we should perhaps look back a little bit to that great Tudor monarch, good Queen Bess, when she said she didn't want to make a window into a person's soul. And it's not the government's business to inquire into what people believe in their heart of hearts. It's only the government's business to inquire into what people do, and only when they do impinge on the rights of others. By the same token, if individuals and different faith organisations want, of their own choice, to celebrate being part of this country with a strong tradition of toleration. I, for one, welcome this week. I particularly welcomed Mitzvah Day. Lots of activities throughout the whole of the UK, lots of practical help. And I know this is something that is mirrored in other faiths and in other denominations. And that's something that certainly that I want to see. There is sometimes a feeling, and it's something I can feel a certain degree to, because anybody that gets involved in politics is a little weird. And sometimes people think, in terms of using organisations, that to have faith in the secular society is a little weird, and that we should push away from them in terms of funding. I mean, I fundamentally disagree. I believe that someone's faith is integral to what they are and what they're able and what they want to put back into society. And I think that for too long, the state, be it national government or local government or even at the most basic parish government have ignored an excellent pastoral infrastructure that, had we tapped into, had we used with greater courage, would have made our fellow citizens that little bit better. So very much welcome this dialogue. Great pleasure to follow these two very distinguished gentlemen, and I look forward to learning more of what people think within the room. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.